What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button. Hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. And with this video, we are jumping into our indie comics weekend. Kicking it off, we have our 80-page giant of Geiger. This will be a one-shot jumping us into the Geigerverse. If you didn't catch the first story arc, issues 1 through 6, be sure to check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything that Geoff Johns has been bringing us. And from this 80-page special, we have writers and individuals like Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, Bryan Hitcch, Kelly Jones, Sean Galloway, and many more who contribute to the 8 stories that are inside of this. And while we're not going to be covering every single one of those, we're going to be having some fun with this. From the secret origin to his two-headed dog Barney, to the introduction of an individual that goes by the name of Redcoat. Be sure to buy the comic, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so this issue picks us up December 25th, 1776. And for those that studied American history, they know this day as the day that George Washington crossed the Delaware River. And as he and all of his men arrive on the other side of that shoreline, George Washington is having a discussion with one of his men. The concern is that they are outnumbered. 4-to-1 odds. It looks like this is going to be a massacre. But Washington, he is not worried in the least bit, letting his men know that he needs to have faith. As the Redcoats line up shoulder to shoulder, they march onto the battlefield. As this fight is about to get underway, we see George Washington. He unleashes a power we never knew he had, with a blinding blue light going out in every direction. We see all of the Redcoats. They are knocked onto their butts. And so while this may be George Washington, this is definitely not the one from the history books. In the Geigerverse, George Washington may have very easily been one of the first individuals wielding some kind of unique ability or unique power. And that's what takes us to December 13th, 2050. And we are picking up with Simon Pure, aka Redcoat. He is an individual that has been alive since 1749. He saw George Washington and all of his forces. If it hadn't been for the American Revolution, Redcoat would not live to be as old as he is. Being 301 years old, it appears that he is almost, if not immortal. But even with having all of these centuries alive, he has yet to learn how to actually save money. And so he goes from town to town, currently in Boston, and he is willing to assassinate anybody simply if they just buy him some food. Walking into the saloon, that's exactly what he offers, telling them he will kill anybody that they wish. The only thing he asks in return is that he gets some kind of hot meal. And since this is Boston, his reputation definitely precedes itself. And in this room, there is one individual who has a job for him. This job comes from the Nuclear Knight. And in Geiger's issue 1 through 6, we saw the Nuclear Knights. They are from Las Vegas and they worked for the king. The only issue is, when the king and the Nuclear Knights, they went after Geiger, it was the last thing that most of them did. This Nuclear Knight is the last one to survive, and he is the only person to go against the Glowing Man and survive. Redcoat, never hearing of the man known as the Glowing Man, he asked for much more detail. And so giving him the backstory, he lets Redcoat know that he is unnatural, kind of the way that you are. Being hit in the blast of the fallout of the unknown war, it didn't incinerate him, it turned him into the Glowing Man. And in the years that followed, he protected his land, he protected that bunker for as long as he possibly could, murdering anybody who dares step on his property. What this Nuclear Knight is really wanting is revenge, knowing that he can't get it himself. and though he was able to escape, he still has radiation poisoning, being in a too weak of state to actually do anything about this. He wants to enlist Redcoat to go kill the glowing man. In mid-conversation, they get interrupted. An individual by the name of Jimmy Stones. Him and his posse, they walk in, and they are here to handle Redcoat, because Redcoat had killed Jimmy's brother just for some eggs and breakfast. Recognizing he is not going to be able to talk his way out of this one, we see the fight break out, grabbing the last nuclear knight and throwing him at Jimmy and his men, thinking he might have an opportunity to take these guys out. That's when Jimmy pulls out his pistol, and he puts a bullet right between the eyes of Redcoat. Just like that, Redcoat lying dead on the ground, bleeding out. By all appearances, he has died. But if George Washington had taught him anything on that fateful day so many years ago, when he shot down George Washington himself, is that dying is temporary, but only if you belong to the right club. Because after he shot George Washington, he also watched him get back up onto his feet. And as we dive into our next story, we are picking up June 22nd, 2042. This is the secret origin of our two-headed companion, Barney. These are the early days when Geiger was out there just scavenging for anything he could find and bringing it back home, trying to build up a very extensive library, having nothing else to do but read and wait. And after enough time, he had finally read everything that he had inside the house, recognizing that he has to go out. He has to go find more books to read. And so packing up all of his gear, he heads out. He heads into town and he finds the public library. As he goes down the aisles looking for anything that might strike his interest. Around the corner, this is where he sees some kind of huge dog fighting the mutated ants, taking out his stabilizing rods. We see him go from Geiger to Meltdown Man, making quick work of these ants. Unfortunately for the dog, she had lost her life, leaving behind a little two-headed mutated dog. This little pup without a mother and without a home. Geiger has every intention of leaving this little guy behind, telling him that life sucks. He turns around, goes and grabs as many books as he can. Right now, this place is burning down to the ground, and this little pup will not leave Geiger's side, trying to tell the pup that he is all by himself. He goes running out of here. Looking behind him, we can see the guilt in his eyes. No matter how tough he acts, no matter how badly he wants to leave that little pup behind, he simply can't do it. Scooping the little pup in a bag, this is the day their companionship began. Now, when it comes to the Geigerverse, we haven't really dived into who all these kingpins or lords are inside of Las Vegas. But these next couple of stories, they're gonna give us an insight to the true cruelty that is inside Vegas. The first story, it starts us off with a young veteran trying to work for any kind of food. That's when a bus pulls up to them, and everybody who is considered more or less a vagrant, they hop in, they are given free food. It seems like an amazing day. But as Bob watches everybody around him begin to collapse, he realizes that this is something else. Before he can do anything, it goes completely dark. To his surprise, he wakes up and he finds himself alive. Not just alive, but alive and well, because Safari Bill has brought all of them in. For Bob, this is more than he could ever have asked for, because the truth is, he is getting 3 square meals a day, he gets to train in combat, so on and so forth. They let him shoot guns. And so while things look like they are going swimmingly, that is until he takes a drink of water one day and he passes out yet again. Because what Safari Bill has been doing is bringing the homeless and the vagrants onto his bus, into his safari, nurturing them up, feeding them, making them very strong so they can be hunted. This is the most dangerous game. As Bob begins to wake up, he finds himself in the back of an armored vehicle with a bunch of other people. He quickly realizes that they have been the prey this whole time. As the ramp comes down, that's when the bullets start coming in. And though Bob does his best to try and lead these guys, the truth of the matter is this is a slaughter. This is a bloodbath. This is his Omaha Beach. The only thing he can do is fire back, attack as strongly and as swiftly as possible, while everybody is dying around him. We see Bob taking them out one by one, no longer afraid of death. There is nothing stopping his rampage. Safari Bill letting his men know that they need to find Bob and take him off the map, because the truth of the matter, he has killed way too many guests already at this point. Unfortunately for Bill, Bob has made his way directly to his office, putting a bullet right between his eyes. This is where we get Safari Bob, the new leader, the new boss. And while you may think that he would end this game altogether, that's not what he does. He evens the playing field. He lets you have as much credit in his casino that you would like. But if you fail to pay your debt off, you can either go in the mines and work it off, or you can try and be in the hunt. And while you would think many people would choose the mines, most of them believe that they can win the hunt, that they can be the next Safari Bob. So far, that has not happened. Taking us to our next story, that is the Karloff. Now this is a place that you do not want to enter, but when you do enter here, you know exactly what is at stake. Because inside the Karloff, this is where people are betting themselves, be it fingers, hands, feet, arms, or even your own organs. But they are all playing for a chance to get to the top floor, an opportunity to have the high life forever. It's a one-way ticket to paradise. The only issue is, it is your life, your body parts, your organs that are at stake. And that is what brings us to an individual by the name of Bellamy. Now Bellamy, he has been struggling for so long. His daughter is sick, and this is the only option that he has. Going upstairs, this is the high rollers table. You bet everything from your liver to your spleen, all the way to your heart. These are the chips that you use to bet with. With the first hand now being dealt, they play for hours. And after this time, it finally comes down to just two of them. Bellamy, he goes all in by betting his heart. Bellamy having the higher hand. He has won the game. He took all of the risk and now he gets to live the high life for the rest of his life, being told to gather his family and get ready for paradise. But Bellamy has other plans, because his daughter, she needs a new liver. And so what he is asking for is not paradise, but to just give his daughter a new liver. And though this isn't how the rules are played, Bellamy does not care. Unfortunately for him, you cannot break the rules. They knock him out, and he next finds himself tied up to a table. Our psychopathic doctor letting him know that it was amazing you beat the game, but the problem is you broke the rules. And breaking the rules, it gets you a trip directly to the laboratory. Being a fair man, he lets the guy know that I am going to give your daughter a liver, but that liver, it is going to come from you. The rest of your body parts, who knows what we're gonna do with them. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Now there are a couple of more stories, so I highly recommend that you guys go buy this if you have not yet already. And I was honestly hoping that this thing was going to open us up to the Geigerverse, getting to understand the Warlords of Las Vegas. I'm excited that Geoff Johns and Gary Frank are getting the opportunity to really expand this universe and make it much more bigger than just Geiger. In this post-apocalyptic land, there are many cities that are still standing with people thriving, I don't know if you could call it thriving, but for living in a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland, I guess this is the closest you can get to being thriving. Here in the next couple of months, we're gonna get Junkyard Joe, which is the robot soldier that we saw Geiger go against. We're also going to see Redcoat issue number 1. We'll probably be picking up with Geiger later on at the end of the year, but for the time being, we are going to see them expanding the Geigerverse and going on little miniseries to truly introduce these new characters that are more than likely going to interact with the Glowing Man. Especially since Redcoat now has a mission to take out Geiger. So let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the Super Thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. And if you can't do that, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you like this video, and until the next breakdown.